They came again. My mother with that perfume that never belonged to warmth. My sister laughing like she owned every room, including mine. I watched them from my bed, pretending to scroll through my phone, pretending their presence didn't burn. Then my aunt leaned close, her voice like a secret. "Don't react. Wait until your sister leaves." Something shifted. Why would she say that? What did she know? Suddenly, my dorm room, this sanctuary of solitude, felt like a crime scene, and I wasn't sure who the victim was, or the criminal. I stopped breathing, because deep down, I felt it. Something wasn't right. I hadn't seen my mother in 3 months, and yet when she walked into my dorm room, it was as if she were inspecting a hotel suite. She didn't book herself. She glanced around, lips pressed in that tight way she always did when something wasn't up to her standards, whether it was furniture, weather, or me. "Oh, it's cozy," she muttered. Behind her, Sophia breezed in like spring sunlight, her smile wide, her makeup flawless, and the way she laughed, loud and glowing, made her the gravitational center of any space, even my own. She flung her arms around me and I stiffened. She didn't notice. "We brought you lunch," she chirped. "Mom made that pesto pasta you love." "I actually have a class in an hour," I said, glancing at my laptop. "Oh, Em, can't you just skip one? It's not like you're failing," Sophia said, half laughing, half dismissive. The food smelled amazing, but the conversation was cold. They talked, mostly to each other, about wedding venues for Sophia, about her upcoming trip to Italy with her fiancé's family, about how she might need another credit card, just for emergencies. I sat across from them, chewing, swallowing, smiling at the right moments, and feeling like background music to their lives. "You know," my mother said, turning slightly toward me. "Sophia's been so stressed lately. I gave her a bit extra this month. Planning a wedding at her age? It's a lot." She reached into her bag and handed Sophia a crisp envelope, thick with cash. Then, with a glance at me, she added, "You're always so responsible, Emily. You manage just fine, right?" I nodded, trying to suppress the sudden heaviness in my throat. I was on a scholarship. I worked 20 hours a week at the library. I hadn't bought a new pair of shoes in over a year. But yes, I managed. Sophia excused herself to the restroom. That's when my aunt, my mother's sister, who'd been quietly wiping down my kitchenette, leaned in. "Don't react," she whispered, barely audible. "Wait until your sister leaves." I froze. My aunt never said much. She was the quiet observer, the one who never took sides. And now, what did she mean? What was there to react to? They left half an hour later, Sophia blowing air kisses and reminding me to smile more. My mother hugged me like someone afraid to wrinkle her blouse. As the door clicked shut, silence returned, and the tension didn't leave with them. That evening, I sat on my bed, staring at a blank Word document. My mind spun around my aunt's words. I texted her. "What did you mean?" No reply. Instead, 2 hours later, I got an email, a subject line that read, "It's time you knew." Inside was a single sentence. "Sophia isn't who you think she is, and neither is your mother." My hands trembled as I read it again, and again. I called her. She picked up after the second ring. Her voice was calm, like she'd been rehearsing for years. "Your mother," she began slowly, "wasn't always the way she is now. When we were young, our own mother favored me. Blatantly. Your mother spent her whole childhood trying to be seen. But she wasn't. So when she had her own children, she made sure one would never feel invisible." "And the other?" I asked. would learn to survive invisibility. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Something cracked inside me. Recognition, perhaps. Like someone had finally named the ache I'd carried for years. "Emily," she continued, "there's something else. Something you need to see. I left it for you, hidden in the kitchen drawer behind the coffee filters." I rushed over, heart pounding. Moved aside the filters, the loose tea bags, and finally, at the very back, found a battered metal tin. Inside, old photographs, worn at the edges. One showed Sophia as a baby, swaddled in pink in a hospital bassinet. I flipped it over. Scrawled handwriting. Sophia Marie, born to Catherine Monroe. Thavamever, LB's Faraz. Bah! Catherine Monroe wasn't my mother. I stared at the name like it might change under the light. A deep breath, then another. I pulled out a second photo, this one of my mother, younger, standing beside a man I didn't recognize, holding baby Sophia. The smile on her face was wide, forced. A note fell from between the pictures. It read, "She took her in because she had no one. But love divided is not the same as love shared." I felt dizzy. The walls of my dorm room seemed to tilt. The floor below me shifted. The certainty I'd built my identity on, that I was the second-born, the lesser, the overlooked, had a new twist. Sophia wasn't my sister by blood, but that didn't explain why she was still the favorite. I started waking up before the sun. The library opened at 7 a.m., and I was already at my desk by 6:45. I didn't have to be, but something inside me, something sharp and stubborn, needed to prove I could be more than what they refused to see. Every assignment was polished, every paper turned in early. I chased perfection, like it owed me love. Midterms came and went. I scored top of my department. A professor pulled me aside and said I should apply for the Sterling Fellowship, one of the most competitive undergraduate research grants in the country. I smiled and said thank you. I didn't mention the late-night panic attacks or the coffee-induced nausea or the fact that I hadn't called home in over 2 weeks. I didn't have time to fall apart. I was too busy constructing the version of me I thought my mother might finally applaud. The school newspaper did a feature on me. Psych major aims to redefine resilience. They sent me a copy, printed in glossy black and white. I forwarded it to my mother. She called 3 days later. "I saw the email," she said. A pause. My heart caught in my throat. "But Sophia needs help picking centerpieces for the engagement dinner. Can you come home next weekend?" I stared at my laptop screen, blinking. "Did you read the article?" Another pause. "Not yet. I've just been so busy." Of course. That night, I sat at my desk for hours, hands hovering over my keyboard, unable to work. Instead, I wrote her an email. Not dramatic, not accusatory. Just honest. I don't know if you realize it, but sometimes it feels like I'm not really part of the family. I just want to talk. About us. About everything. I hit send. No reply. A day passed, then 2. The silence was louder than any rejection. Then, a message from my aunt. "Your sister is leaving town tomorrow night. Wait 1 more day." I didn't know what she meant by wait, or what it would change. But I waited. The next morning, my body protested before my brain did. I woke with a migraine so fierce I couldn't see straight. My fingers trembled as I tried to hold a pen. I skipped class for the first time in the semester. Curled up in bed, the fluorescent ceiling buzzed above me like it was mocking my exhaustion. I was unraveling. Later that night, I climbed to the roof of the dorm. No one else was up there. The sky was bruised with stars, and the air carried the chill of late autumn. I opened my journal. My handwriting shook as I wrote. "I still love you, Mom. even though you've forgotten I'm here." I closed the book, held it to my chest, and exhaled like it might empty the ache with the air. The next morning I dragged myself out of bed and made my way to the campus cafe. My roommate, Jenna, was already there. She looked at me with hesitant eyes. "Hey, I didn't want to say anything before, but I overheard Sophia on the phone the last time she visited." I froze. She was talking to someone, maybe her fiancé. She said... Jenna glanced around, lowered her voice. She said, "Emily's not even my real sister anyway. She's just a responsibility." The word landed like a slap. Responsibility. Jenna's face softened. "I didn't know if I should tell you, but you deserve to know." I nodded slowly, trying to keep my face still. Inside, my chest tightened until it felt like my ribs were going to splinter. The ache of being invisible was one thing, but being a burden, a task someone put up with? The Sterling Fellowship email came later that afternoon. I'd made it to the final round. It should have felt like a victory. Instead, I stared at the screen, numb. If I wasn't truly her daughter, if I was never meant to belong, then what was the point of proving anything at all? The envelope sat on my desk for hours. I didn't touch it, didn't even look at it directly. Just the idea of what might be inside was enough to make my palms sweat. I'd gone through with it, ordered the DNA test, swabbed my cheek in silence, mailed it off like a confession I couldn't say out loud. Now the results had come, but opening them meant facing something final, something undeniable. So I waited. In the days that followed, I tried to untangle myself from the hunger to be enough. I stopped waking up before dawn. I let myself breathe without achievement. Instead, I picked up a brush and painted. The first piece was a chaotic blend of color. No form, no subject, just emotion bleeding through acrylic. Then I wrote a poem, then another. Words I never shared but kept close, like little bandages on invisible cuts. On Thursdays, I started volunteering at the community center. They assigned me to a reading group for underprivileged kids. One of them, 6-year-old Zoe, clung to me from the moment we met. She had big eyes and a voice like a whisper. "You talk soft," she told me once, "like my favorite bedtime stories." I smiled. "You like bedtime stories?" She nodded. "They make me feel like I belong somewhere." Her words didn't leave me for days. That evening I stood at the mirror, brushing my hair back, looking into my own face. I tried to see what others saw. My mother, Sophia, even strangers. But what I saw, maybe for the first time, was a girl trying her best, a girl surviving. I finally opened the envelope. The words were clinical, detached. But the result was clear. Sophia and I were not biologically related. I sank onto my bed, the paper trembling in my hands. I already knew. But now, I knew. I stared at the ceiling, a silent question growing louder with every second. If Sophia wasn't my sister, then was she ever truly my mother? The next day, I walked to the administration office and picked up the application packet for the Overseas Exchange Program. Paris, Florence, Melbourne. It didn't matter where. Just far enough to finally be mine. Back in my room, I sat at my laptop and created a blog. Just a simple title, Second Daughter. The first post came easy. This is for the ones who were told they were strong because no one ever showed up for them. For the ones who were given silence instead of praise. I see you. Within hours, strangers began to comment. Some whispered thanks. Others shared their own stories of favoritism, neglect, quiet survival. And for once, I didn't feel alone. At the university writing seminar, I met Dr. Leona Burke, a visiting professor from Boston. Her feedback was sharp but kind, always pushing me to write braver, not safer. One afternoon, she called me aside. "You write like someone who's had to earn every ounce of their existence." I nodded, unsure how much to say. She smiled gently. "You know, you can't force someone to love you, but you can decide to love yourself anyway. That's where your power begins." I carried those words for days. Then one evening, an email arrived. No subject, no sender I recognized. Inside, a few sentences. "I've followed your work online. I believe I'm your father. I've tried to reach out before, but was told it would only confuse you. If you're willing, I'd like to talk." Attached was a photo of a man in his early 50s. Brown eyes, same nose, same eyebrows. I stared at it until my screen went dim. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just sat there, quiet. If this was real, if he was who he said he was, then everything I knew about my life had been a carefully constructed myth. I reached for my phone, then stopped. What would I even say to my mother? That I'd found the truth she buried? Or would I let it stay buried, leave with dignity, with silence? The cursor blinked on my blog dashboard. A blank post. A blank page. I closed the laptop. For the first time, the silence wasn't empty. It was a choice. I hadn't been home in nearly a year, and the house somehow felt smaller. Or maybe I was larger now, filled with questions, truths, a version of myself that no longer flinched in quiet rooms. The walls still smelled like lavender and old regrets. My mother opened the door with a tight smile, as if unsure how to receive me. Sophia was already in the kitchen, slicing fruit like it was any ordinary day. I didn't sit. "I came to talk," I said. My mother's hands paused midair. Sophia looked up. "No small talk, no smiles," I added. "Just truth." There was silence for a moment too long. Then my mother exhaled. "Go on." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I laid it out in even tones. How it felt to grow up with my voice constantly muted, my wins unnoticed, my presence tolerated, not embraced. How I worked myself into exhaustion, waiting for approval that never came. She didn't interrupt. Sophia did. "I didn't know," she said softly. "I thought you were just distant, but maybe I was the reason." I turned to her, surprised. "I thought she loved me more," she added. "Now I'm starting to think she just used me to bury her guilt." Our mother looked up sharply. "That's enough." "No," I said, eyes locked on hers. "It's not." There was a long, terrible pause. Then she sat down at the table and spoke. "You were born from a mistake," she began, voice low. "Your father had an affair, a woman he barely knew. When she left town, she left you behind. He wanted to keep you. I told him no, but he begged, so I raised you." Every word landed like a stone in my chest. "I raised you," she repeated. "I fed you. I dressed you. I kept the truth so you wouldn't feel shame. But I felt invisible," I said. "Every day. I didn't know how to love you," she admitted. "I didn't want to see you. You reminded me of everything I hated about him. But I still raised you." My mouth opened, then closed. There were too many things to say, and none felt right. Gratitude, rage, pity. How do you thank someone for raising you while also blaming them for breaking you? I walked out without another word. Back at school, I waited for her to call. She didn't. Instead, Sophia texted me 2 days later. Just one sentence. "You broke everything." I stared at the screen, numb. I wanted to scream back. No, it was already broken. But I didn't. I didn't have it in me. Classes blurred. I forgot to eat. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. with my heart racing, and my breath caught somewhere behind my ribs. One night, my aunt came to visit. She didn't say much, just held me on the couch like I was 5 again. "I tried to protect you," she whispered. "I know," I whispered back, tears finally spilling over. It was the first time I cried in someone's arms, the first time I let myself be weak, without shame. We sat like that for hours. The next day, I woke up to a video message. It was Sophia. Her voice was shaky. "Emily, Mom was in a car accident. She's in the hospital. I thought you should know." The screen went black. I stared at the blinking cursor on my blog post draft. I hadn't spoken to my mother in weeks, hadn't answered Sophia's texts, had convinced myself I didn't need any of them. But now I had to decide whether healing meant walking away or walking back in. I didn't go to the hospital, not immediately. Instead, I sat in therapy for the first time, legs trembling, unsure where to begin. The therapist, Dr. Laskin, didn't push. She just waited. And eventually, I spoke. I told her about the years of quiet ache, the invisible wounds, the exhausting pursuit of a love that had no intention of catching me. I spoke about guilt, about how it had wrapped itself around my spine like a second skeleton. And when I finished, I felt empty, but not broken. Each week I went back, and slowly I peeled back the layers. At home, I began drafting chapters, my story in pieces. Not a memoir, not yet, just truth on a page. The working title, Unchosen. One evening after group therapy on campus, I found a girl in the hallway, slumped against the wall, sobbing silently. Her name was Lila, a first-year psych major. Her parents had cut her off for choosing her own major instead of theirs. I sat beside her. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Yes, you can," I said. "I've been there. I've felt that same void." She looked up, eyes wide. "How did you survive it?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I pulled her into a hug. Because someone once reminded me I didn't have to carry the weight alone. When I got home that night, there was an email waiting. "We'd love to invite you as a speaker at TEDx Columbia. We read your blog. Your story resonates. Our theme this year, Resilience Reimagined." I reread the message 3 times before I smiled. My proposed topic came naturally. I wasn't the favorite, and I still thrived. I started practicing the speech in front of the mirror. The words weren't polished yet, but the message was. I had been denied love, but I had learned to grow without it. That didn't make me less. It made me proof that healing is a choice. The day after the TEDx invitation, I called my aunt. "I want to start something," I said. "A place where students like me, like Lila, can come and feel heard." She didn't hesitate. "Let me help." By winter break, we launched the Second Circle, a support center for college students dealing with familial trauma, weekly group sessions, journaling workshops, open mic nights themed around found family. The center filled faster than we expected. One chilly afternoon, as I was organizing flyers for a self-worth seminar, Sophia showed up at the door. She looked older, quieter. "She wants to see you," she said. "Mom, she's back home now, but she's not well." I said nothing. "She's different," Sophia added. "Scared, maybe. But sorry. Truly." I nodded slowly. "Okay." The next morning, I walked into the house I'd once left without a word. It felt unfamiliar now, smaller. But so did the anger I carried. Mom sat in the living room, wrapped in a shawl, thinner than I remembered. She didn't rise when I entered. "I didn't expect you," she said. "I almost didn't come." She looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry." She said it like it hurt to speak, like it cost something. "I blamed you for everything he did," she whispered. And I was cruel. I know that now. Not just to you, but to myself. I lived in armor, and I made you the casualty. She handed me an envelope. My will. And a letter. I wanted you to have it, in case. I never get the words right, in person. I took it, but didn't open it. Not yet. We didn't talk long. There wasn't much to say. But for the first time, there was no sharpness between us. Just two people finally seeing each other through the blur. That night, back in my room, I opened the letter. She wrote about her upbringing, about being told to marry for stability, not love. About how my father's betrayal didn't just break her heart, it broke her trust in the world. How raising me was her attempt at redemption, but also her punishment. Then came the last line. I never knew how to love you the way you deserved. But that doesn't mean you weren't deserving. You always were. I held the letter for a long time, not because I needed anything from it, but because, for once, it gave back. Forgiveness didn't come all at once. It came in pieces. Quiet moments where I didn't flinch at the sound of her name, where I remembered the pain without letting it lead the day. I didn't rush to call her. I didn't forget. But I allowed space for the truth to breathe, without suffocating my own healing. We spoke every now and then, short, cautious conversations. There were still silences between us, but no longer the kind that stung. More like pauses in a song that needed air. I learned to stop expecting reconciliation to look like warmth. Sometimes it looked like boundaries, like telling her gently that I wouldn't come for holidays, but I wished her peace, like loving from afar. In therapy, I told Dr. Laskin, I don't think I'll ever be the daughter she wanted. She smiled. That's okay. You became the woman you needed. That line stayed with me. I stopped asking if she deserved forgiveness. I started asking if I deserved freedom. At the second circle, I kept working, listening, guiding. Week by week, students showed up with heavy stories and left a little lighter. Then one afternoon, I got an email. Subject, you helped me. It was from Maya, one of the quietest girls in the support group. She wrote, I finally told my dad I wouldn't keep pretending I was okay, just to earn his affection. I used your words, actually. I said, if love comes with conditions, maybe it's not love at all. He didn't say much, but he hugged me for the first time in years. Thank you. I closed my laptop, heart thudding. This was the ripple. I wasn't just healing, I was helping others break the same chains. Months passed. My TEDx talk went viral. A publisher called. I signed a deal for Unchosen, now a full manuscript. I started speaking at colleges, conferences, non-profits. Everywhere I went, someone pulled me aside and whispered. That was my story too. I became the voice I'd needed. And maybe that was enough. One morning, as I stood backstage at a national education summit, a producer adjusted my mic and said, We'll roll camera in 30 seconds. Just look straight ahead and speak from the heart. The lights dimmed. The red dot blinked. I took a breath. And then, I looked straight into the camera. If you're watching this, maybe you felt like I did. Unseen, unloved. Maybe you spent your whole life trying to earn someone's care. Let me tell you what no one told me. You were never the problem. You don't need to be chosen to be worthy. You already are. I paused, eyes burning. You can build a life from the ashes of what they didn't give you. You can choose your own family. You can love yourself loud enough to drown out the silence. Another breath. I wasn't the favorite, but I became free. The light above the camera flicked off. Applause swelled behind the curtain. And I smiled. because the ending I thought I wanted had never been mine to chase. But this beginning, I made it.